Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and having learned a few things from human interactions and having pursued my master's in business administration and clinical psychology, I today would like to talk about a thought which I had shared with an uncle of mine. When we do not know, 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 what to say no to, NO to, very likely will not know what to say yes to. So, about a few weeks back, I had this conversation wherein this thought was shared with an uncle of mine. And to a degree, if we actually think about it, if we do not know what to say no to, we'll not know what to say yes to. Because quite likely, we'll be saying yes to almost everything and everybody. Quite likely, we'll be putting our energy and our time into doing things what others wants us or expects us to do. Quite likely, we'll be going to places. Quite likely, we'll be eating food. Quite likely, we'll be spending our time when we are not actually and truly interested in doing any of those things. And many a times we do those things because we don't want to appear rude, because we want to be considered as a nice person. And of course, there's a difference between being a nice person and a kind person. And of course, while we are doing all of this, when we are actually wanting to say no, but then end up saying yes to things that we actually want to say no to, unconsciously we get confused between being nice and between being kind. We kind of assume that being nice and being kind are one and the same thing. Now, we also don't want to disappoint others. We don't want to hurt them in some way or the other. We don't want to let them down. And in a way, to a degree, we let ourselves down. We disappoint ourselves when we are almost constantly taking care of not disappointing others. When we are almost constantly taking care of not wanting to hurt others, we end up hurting ourselves. On an underlying level, we might also have a sense of anxiety, an over concern, a worry that if we say no or if we prioritize ourselves, at least sometimes, if not all the times, then people will neglect us, people will abandon us, people will not befriend us, that they will start ignoring us, that we would not belong with them, which is where we unknowingly also get confused between fitting in and between belonging. On the other hand, on some level, when we are almost all the time saying yes when we actually want to say no, we are actually being chronic people pleasers. To a degree, it also tells us that we are not quite in tune with our values, which is where we can't seem to prioritize what's truly important for us, what truly matters to us. To a degree, it also tells us that it's others people's opinions, that it's other people's decisions that is running and shaping our life and our life choices. To a degree, it also reveals lack of self-awareness. And of course, the other tangent of that is that when we do not know when to say no, we are not prioritizing ourselves, our choices, our tasks, and our lives. And quite naturally, when we are unable to do so, when we do not feel empowered to do so, there's a kind of resentment that starts to build up within us. It's a kind of anger that is seething within us, and thereby accumulating a kind of stress which leads to distress in the longer run. And of course, all of those stresses or distresses over a period of time naturally leads to some kind of health impairment, mental health, emotional health, and physical health. On another level, it's also indicative of the lack of maturity within our interpersonal dynamics, which then quite naturally is indicative of intrapersonal dynamics as well. So, as much as we think about IQ, there's also something called as emotional intelligence and relational intelligence. And since our inability to say no when we actually want to say no plays out or gets revealed in the realm of IQ, in the realm of emotional intelligence and relational intelligence, it somewhere also indicates to us that we probably need to work on all of those intelligences a little more. For like it said that we cannot please everybody and that it's not also natural to please everybody. So when we begin to say no, when we actually want to say no, we might end up hurting, we might end up saddening, we might end up disappointing a few people who've gotten used to us saying yes to them, yes to their choices, yes to their opinions, yes to their priorities, yes to their planning. We might end up feeling ignored or neglected or even abandoned. But slash and that's also the time where, for the first time, or one of the few times, wherein we have started to choose our values over somebody else's values, wherein we have started to choose for ourselves, make choices for ourselves, rather than going by or complying by other people's choices. This is also probably the first time wherein we have acted responsibly, for this is where the journey of accountability begins. This is probably also the only time when we say no to something which we want to say no to, so that we are able to say yes to some things that we want to say yes to. We are actually coming from a place of authenticity rather than a place of fear that is driven by other people's opinion of us. FOPO. Now, that's not to say that we are forever and always saying no. No just because we have to say no, but rather no because we are choosing to say no, because we are prioritizing something else, something that truly matters to us, something that truly is valuable for us, rather than saying yes, which is inauthentic and not genuine. And when we know when to say no, we are quite naturally also utilizing our resources, our time, our value, our priority, our energies to then say yes to things, to then say yes to people that we actually want to say yes to. We also do not hold resentment towards others and towards ourselves, invariably lessening the cumulative stressors, which turns into distressors over a period of time, both on personal and interpersonal levels. And in a way, we very likely are also saying no to a lot of diseases, both on personal and interpersonal levels, when we develop this ability to remove the distressors from our lives. Let's try and think about that. Let's try and see. Let's try and observe. Where do we act on compulsion to say yes when we actually want to say no? Are we overburdening ourselves and overextending and overstretching ourselves where that actually might not be a requirement? Do we have the emotional bandwidth and intelligence? And do our relationships have relational intelligence? Have relationally intelligent people, emotionally intelligent people who value our no's as much as they value our yeses? And do we have the bandwidth to hold somebody else's no and yes at the same time? Let's think about all of those aspects, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.